You're watching City Channel 4, your window to our community.
So my name is Kris Ackerson, and I'm an assistant transportation planner with the Metropolitan Planning Organization of Johnson County. And I grew up riding my bike. My parents took me on RAGBRAI when I was a kid, and it was my main mode of transportation when I was a teenager, and so I've just kind of kept doing it. Just something I enjoy. Well, so when I was trying to prepare for this, I knew it was going to be hard because a half hour is not very much time, and everyone has different interests. I could spend an entire half hour just showing people how to change a flat tire, which led me to think, after this is over, maybe it's something that we could continue doing on a monthly basis where we just focus on a particular thing. But based on the notes that people had submitted when they registered, I kind of put some materials together, and I'll just kind of zip through those and then be able to answer questions and what have you. So the first thing I was going to do is go over route planning, which Alan had mentioned. And the tool that I use more often than anything is Google Maps. And I've got a web page pulled up here. So I just want to familiarize everyone with this really interesting tool that they have. This is the new layout of Google Maps, and they have a search bar up here. And below that, you can choose whether you want to view traffic. It'll indicate the types of traffic that are happening. But you can also do bicycling. And what that does, the color's not terribly good here, but it will highlight all of the trails. These dashed lines are bike-friendly routes that are really popular for people. And then they've even got, in a different color, it's kind of hard to see here, the streets that have some sort of on-street facility. What's neat about it, though, is that you can right-click on the map and select whether you want your directions from here or to there. And that will set a little button, and it opens up your directions. So here's your origin, and then your destination is below that. And you can go up to another spot and right-click there, and it will give you the option to do the other. What's neat about this is that it's taking all of the topography, the hills, into account, and whether or not there are trails to use or on-street facilities. It takes all of those things into account, the time, and it gives you a few options. So the first option that appears here will take 9 minutes, and it looks like it follows Court Street. I'm sorry, these are the driving directions. You have to go up here to the top, and if you're in a town with Google Transit, you can choose that. You can choose walking directions, or you can do cycling. So there, see, changed the route. The other thing it'll do is it'll give you different options. So these gray lines are the other route options down here. And you can see this one will take 20 minutes, this one will take 21. And then there's also this other cool feature where, let's say you want to stop by a friend's house on the way, or you want to go to a particular store on the way. You can grab the line anywhere and drag it to the new place that you want to go, and on the fly, it makes new directions for you. So you set that, and now it'll say, okay, that's the route you want to go, and if you want to move it again, you can do that. You can grab that point if it's not frozen there. And you can add other additional stops along the way. You could grab one here, go up here. So you can kind of tweak your ride however you would like. It's really helpful if you're doing a ride like out to North Liberty or Coralville, because it'll give you a lot of different options. I'm going to zoom out here. Let's see. I don't know why it's not giving me extra options. Oh, it's because I've selected these extra waypoints along the way. But anyway, this is a really cool tool, and because it takes all those those features of our topography and the bike facilities and what have you into account. Looks like Chrome is kind of crashed here. There we go. It's a really handy tool. So that's usually the first place that I start. And if you're planning to ride for work, it's usually a good idea if you're going to try a new route to maybe drive it in advance, so you can kind of get a feel for where you're going. You don't want to get lost on your way to work and be late. But it's fun to try out different routes. You can tweak it, and I know when I moved to our new house, I tried 4 different routes getting to work before I finally settled on one. There are usually a variety of different choices. So, any questions on routing? Is everyone already familiar with this? I hope I did not introduce you to something you already knew about. Good, good.
Do you use an app to track your routes and your time?
Do I use an app? I use an app called Strava, which is a way to record your rides, and it tells you how many calories you burned and what have you. And it even tracks how fast you were along certain segments. And if other people have done those segments, it'll tell you your ranking, just for the community competition. It's a sort of a social thing, but that's a really cool app, and I think you can download your rides and stuff. I've really enjoyed that one. So yeah. Any other questions on that? All right, so the next thing I was going to talk about is gear. I want to preface this by saying that really the only gear you need is a bicycle, a helmet, which is optional in the state of Iowa, but highly recommended, and maybe a form of identification and cash. Even those aren't necessary. Mm-hmm.
How long, I'm sure you're going to get to this, but how long do your helmets last before you need to change them out?
That's a good, that's a good question.
Is there
I don't know if...
Is there an answer to that? Does it start breaking down after a certain period of time?
I don't think so. I think the styrofoam is pretty durable. However, if you do have a fall and you hit your head, you're supposed to get it fixed. You also don't want to sit on it. They're not made for that kind of, I know people have done that, and that'll break it, and once you have a crack in the styrofoam, it won't have the same integrity. So aside from that, I think they can last a pretty long time as long as you take care of them. But yeah, if you get in an accident, it's definitely a good idea to replace it. So aside from those 4 things that I mentioned needing, because bicycling really is supposed to be accessible, it's pretty easy. A lot of people start out riding at this time of year when the weather is nice, and you really don't need any different clothes than you would when you're driving to work. But I will go through some of the other things that you can acquire. And if you do ride to work or ride your bike regularly for exercise, as the weather changes, you start to realize, oh, it's getting chillier, and maybe I need to buy or start using some extra equipment. So I'm just going to go through some of the equipment that I use regularly. These are thin gloves, which are polyester material, so they dry really fast. And the big bulky ones, I think, just sort of make it feel a little cumbersome to use your brakes and what have you. I have a little beanie type hat, which is great because it fits easily under your helmet, and you don't feel like you're having to mash your head into your helmet. So having a thin beanie is really helpful. Some people wear just ear protection, but the wind goes right through the vents in your helmet, so I like one of these. If it gets really cold, you can wear a balaclava. This is just a neck warmer, but I find that it can make a huge difference in how warm you feel, because a lot of wind will go down your neck. I can sometimes get away with a light jacket or a fleece in this and feel really warm. I have a rain jacket. I got this in orange because it's more visible, but a rain jacket's really nice because it's thin, so it's a layer. If it's cold when you ride to work, you can zip it up and it's wind protection, but you can unzip it so the breeze gets to you, and then you can just wad it up and put it in your bag for the ride home. I don't use these much anymore, but when I lived in Oregon, that's the first place that I lived where I didn't own a car. And I wore these a lot because it rains there quite a bit. And they're basically just a pair of wind pants, and they have a liner like a lot of rain jackets that prevents water from getting inside. They were like maybe $50, and they've lasted me like 7 years now. So pretty good investment. They have a little bit of reflective tape here on the side, and you can zip them open, so you can pull them on over your shoes and pants and take them off pretty easily. And then I used to just hang them up. Pretty much every place I would go had a coat rack, and you can hang them there, and they dry quickly. These are bar mitts. These are definitely, I think, a luxury item because they're like $65 if you buy them new. And I got them at an expo, and so they were on a discount. But basically what they do is they go over your handlebars, and they come in different styles for different handlebar types. And they're made of neoprene, and essentially what you do is you just slide your hand inside them. They're always attached to your bike, and you slide your hand in, and you can use your brakes and your shifters and stuff. And they are the coolest thing I've owned. I never would have spent the money, but since they were on sale, I thought I should try them out. And I can ride around town, and it can be, I feel comfortable down to about 20 degrees with no gloves, just these. And you know, they block your hands from the wind. They keep the wind from going up your arm sleeve. So it's like wearing a pair of gloves, but having your bike handlebars inside. And then what's also nice is you pull your hands out when you get where you're going, and you don't have to like deal with your gloves. You can just reach in, grab your keys, and do your lock. So definitely a neat invention, and not even something that you need you know, for the winter. You could use them in the spring and in the fall. Some people wear a reflective vest. I don't typically wear one, but you know, if I'm riding out in the county and it's getting dark, it's not a bad idea to have one of these. They don't take up a lot of space. If you're riding to work, you might want to invest in a bag of some kind. I don't have a pannier that I ride with normally. I just use my book bag. But you can invest in a bag. This is one that our family has had for a long time. You can put all kinds of you know, lunch, your bike lock, all kinds of gear and stuff in there. They're pretty handy to have. They also just hook on your bike rack, and you can take it inside with you so nobody steals it. It's also a good place to put a bike map if you are out on trails doing rec rides over the weekend and just kind of out exploring. You can put that in there. You can also put a spare tube, which can come in handy if you don't know how to change a tire, or you just don't want to take the time to do it because you're out just wanting to have a good time. You can have a spare tire tube. And then bike locks. This is a really important concept. A lot of people underlock their bike. Most bikes nowadays have what's called a quick release. I don't know if I can turn this around. There's a little lever here, and it allows you to take the wheel off really easily, and that's perfect for thieves. So you don't want to simply lock your front tire to a post or a bike rack because they can undo that and take the rest of your bike away. So what I recommend people do, and this seems really not intuitive, I'm a spatial person, and it took me a while to believe this, but you can lock your bike up to anything if you go through this wheel and attach it on the other side. You don't actually have to attach the lock to the frame in any way, because in order to get this wheel off, you'd have to go through the frame. You'd have to kind of look at it, but basically this is the easiest way to lock up your bike, your rear wheel, and your frame. And if you're worried about somebody taking your front tire, also you can use one of these or have another lock altogether. And I just will run it through here and then lock it up to the other side. That's another option. But around here, I think in general, I feel like you want to lock up your bike everywhere you go, but there aren't as many thieves as there might appear. So the key is to lock up your frame. And this is the best way to do that through there. Any questions about that? No? All right, so I'm going to go over some of the stuff I have on the bike that's really important. Bike lights are probably one of the most important safety features that you could have. The main reasons people get in collisions is because motorists don't see them. So I always have a front and a rear light. These are LEDs, and they don't use very much battery, but they're pretty bright. I don't want to shine it right in your eye. They're about $30 or so. You can do solid. I always recommend doing the flash, at least during the day, because the flash helps draw your attention, or draw the motorist's attention to you. So I recommend using your lights all the time. There's no reason not to. You can only make yourself more visible. I used to ride my bike to work during the morning down Dodge Street, and I had almost 3 collisions coming down the hill. That, I would be going at a motorist's pace, which is pretty fast, and I think sometimes I would be in a shadow of a tree, and people aren't looking for something your size, and they would pull in front of me. And so that's when I started using my lights all the time, and that pretty much eliminated that problem. I also use a rear tail light for the same reason, and it's they're also like $20 or $30, and they come in all different. This one has a little reflector and different blinking patterns and what have you, but the point is that you should always use a light, and I recommend using them all the time. You can also get straps for your pant leg to avoid getting oil on your pants, and these come in all different shapes and sizes. I prefer this one. It's just a little metal thing, and I can do it one-handed. Like if I forget to put it on, I can grab it and put it on with just one hand. But a lot of people use these, and they're reflective, so the motion of your foot going up and down is something that motorists will see. So that's definitely something that you might want to consider. I also have a little cyclometer up here to track my speed and my miles. It's an optional thing. I also recommend people get a bell, especially if you like riding on trails. It's much easier to get the pedestrians' attention from a lot further away. They hear that and they know exactly what it is. If you don't have a bell, you have to yell, which startles people. And they may not hear you. If the wind is, if you have a headwind, it's harder to yell up ahead. So a bike bell is a great investment. They're like, you can get them for $5. Low investment, but really handy. And then I also have a bag back here. And this is where I store all of my tools. We only have 5 more minutes. So I'll just go through the tools that I have, and we'll see if there are any questions. A lot of these are only useful if you know how to use them. But even if you don't know how to use them, if you get in a bind, you might find a friendly passerby that knows how to use them and can help you. So this is a little patch kit, and it's got glue and patches and a little piece of sandpaper. I might be able to give a demonstration on how to do that another time. These are tire irons. This is how you get your tire off of the bike wheel to change your tire. A couple of extra straps. This is a multi-tool. So it has a Phillips and a flathead, and then a few Allen wrenches. There are only a few sizes on a bike. They're just a handful. So you really only need those. And then this is a 3-way wrench, and this is just to tighten down nuts. And again, there are only like 3 sizes that are ever used. So you have this, and you can fix your bike in pretty much any other bike that you would need to. Oh, and then this, this is actually one of the, well, there's a hole in this one. It's one of the booties that they give you at the airport to like put on your feet. And I was like, wow, that'd be perfect for my bike seat. So I just took like a handful of them. And when it's raining, I stick that over my my bike seat, and it keeps it dry. It's just like that. This one's kind of old. I need to replace it. People also use garbage or grocery bags, grocery sacks. just stuff it under your seat in here and it won't go anywhere. You always have it if you need it. So that's the equipment that I have. Are there any questions? How to pack your clothes, we could cover that in a half hour. There are a variety of different ways. But unless you live more than 2 miles away from work, you probably don't even need to change your clothes. You can just wear your work clothes. However, being employees of the city, we have the opportunity to use the rec center shower facilities, and City Hall also has a shower in the basement. There are 2 showers that are available to any employees, so that's an option. I also know people who bring their clothes. They have a pannier and they fold them up, and Rick Foss, the Public Works Director, does that. But unless you live more than 2 miles away, it's usually not necessary. The other thing I'll say is that our buses are all equipped with bike racks. And that's a great tool because, and I've used this numerous times, let's say I get up in the morning and it's cold and windy, and I decide I still want to be able to ride home. I can throw my bike on the bus and take the bus to work. Or if you get a flat tire, which has happened to me, and I don't want to change the tire, I can jump on the bus.
Do they have a little video that shows you how to use that thing?
You can Google it, but we actually are, the cable station is working on one.
Oh, okay.
They're producing one.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's coming out soon. Because that can be kind of an intimidating thing. I mean, the bus drivers are really patient, but they can't usually leave the bus in order to help you. But you can Google it or watch the video that we post and get an idea. It's not hard. It's just sort of cumbersome the first time you do it. So, but that's a great resource if you get in a pinch or what have you. Or if you want to ride to work in the morning and by the afternoon it's too hot, you can ride the bus home. That's another option. So, excellent. I'm glad you all came. I hope you learned something.
You're watching City Channel 4. On TV, online, on demand, on Facebook, and now on the go on your mobile device.